All right, so I'm recording. Okay. So we're going to talk about NuPIC versioning, releasing, and feature tracking. This is something I just started thinking about this week, and I knew, well, this week and last week, but I knew it was coming up. It's something we have to do, and we're faced with a good problem because all of our trends are continuously increasing, which is great, but it means we're getting more activity, more contributions will be coming, and it's just going to get worse. As we continue to make it easier for people to use NuPIC, build NuPIC in different environments, we're just, hopefully we'll be getting more and more activity, more contributions. So we have plans in the pipeline to make NuPIC pip installable, create binary distributions for different environments, and eventually create language bindings around kind of the core C++ module. And we're always trying to continue to reduce our dependencies. Each of these things are going to allow more users to come in, which will create more feature requests and more bug fixes. So we want to be prepared for this. So what we need, I think, is three major things: a versioning strategy. And this is really for the ease of use of consumers of the product who want to use it, incorporate it into their ecosystems, their build processes, etc. A release process that helps development for contributors, so that people are not blocked on the contributions that they want to make because of an impending release. So some strategy for releasing that will not create idle developers within the open source community. And we need a changelog to go along with this release and versioning strategy to be very transparent about what's in each release. Yeah, we're not streaming, but I'm recording for later. So what's going into every release, and I also want to create kind of a more stringent guideline for contributors to create new features and bug fixes. So this is really for everybody. I mean, consumers are going to want to know what's in the next version, and developers are also going to want to know that when they decide what they're going to be working on. So we should discuss this. I'm kind of assuming we want to do semantic versioning. It's pretty much standard. So major, minor, and patch in a digit dot digit fashion. So the patch would be bug fixes, always backwards compatible. Minor version bump would be adding new features that are backwards compatible but create new APIs. And the major version is when we make breaking changes. So this is really pretty standard.
There's API compatibility, and there's also the storage format.
Yeah, I would probably, yeah, that's a good point. My opinion is probably storage format incompatibility would be a major change. But that's kind of, it depends on where we're at in the project and who's using it at that time, I would say. If we provide tools for conversion, it may not be such a big deal, and we could do it in a minor change. But if there's no conversion possible, I would say that's a major API
it's kind of an interesting situation because the API might not change at all.
Right.
But we might have much more efficient storage format.
Right.
Stuff that is complicated.
If that does come up, that's really something we need to communicate with the community and get their feedback on. That's a contributor issue. How should we deal with this? Not something we want to make decisions about in the dark.
But that's a pretty safe kind of stance, is if there is any storage incompatibility, that becomes a major change unless there's conversion.
Unless there's a conversion path, I would say. So let's talk about releases. So I'm in the middle of sort of a debate about releases, which is branch versus fork.
Actually, I'm sorry, with the previous one, there's actually a slightly different version of this, which is API doesn't change, storage formats doesn't change, but the algorithm changes a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. So results could change.
Results could change.
That's also, that's a good point. That's a gray area.
That's a gray area, It could be better.
Could be better in some areas and worse in other areas.
It could be like a feature.
It could be
like a new feature, right?
It could be a new feature, but
so maybe
features
it's the
are
middle
maybe
number.
bugs for some people.
No, I'm just
too.
saying maybe it's the middle number.
Oh,
No,
actually,
a new feature would be okay as long as the old feature is still there.
Yeah.
If we improve it, the old behavior may not be there.
If someone is relying on a certain behavior for their use case, and we make an improvement that alters that behavior, we might not ever know about that even.
Right.
Is it
So,
fair to say that if you remove something, then that's going to be higher up in the chain as opposed to
yeah.
so whether it's removing features, removing results, removing compatibility with previous versions, that's an argument for making it a major release versus
Yeah.
minor.
I agree with that.
Whereas you can add stuff.
You add stuff all day long for the most part, but if your addition somehow changes an existing functionality of the algorithm, which could happen, then that's something we might not ever know about, and if we do, we need to be totally transparent about it and make sure people know. But it's something that we should kind of underscore to the community, especially if we know we're adding a new feature that touches the core algorithms in some way, to kind of broadcast and say, this is what we're doing in total transparency. Here's what we're doing. This could potentially affect the way results are produced, and ask for people to run tests run it through whatever they're using it with and see what it looks like. And we could do this on the release before we merge into master or whatever we end up doing with our release strategy.
They will not be caught by tests themselves?
Well, it would be caught by our tests, but our tests don't encompass all of the use cases that could be out there. Now, the more we encourage people to write tests, the better off we'll be. But we might find a situation where we've found a functionality and we update our tests because we understand what we're doing and we know the results are going to be different. They're actually better, and it's better for us as the current primary user of NuPIC, but it might not be better for somebody else. But this is still, this just emphasizes how badly we need proper versioning of releases, because someone might stick with the version they're using because they know something in the newer version is going to affect the way they use the system, and until that's addressed, they can't move forward.
But it has the potential for a fork, I guess, right?
It does, yeah. It does.
And then we're going to learn a lot about this as we go as well.
We are,
Results,
yeah.
and I think right now we should try to move as fast as possible.
Mhm.
And Grok is pretty reliant on the code base, but we don't have that many other people that are critically reliant.
Yeah.
We want to get to that point, so it's great to put this in place.
Right, and we need to be a true user of the system as Grok, and as soon as we get this versioning system in place, start using it like a true user of it would use it. So if we introduce new features and Grok is dependent on it, we go through the process and then we bump Grok's version to use the next version of NuPIC. Okay, so let's talk about releases. So branching for releases is pretty typical, and it's the only way that I've done releases, especially with Git, where we have master. We currently do not allow topical branches off of master. We require our users to create their own forks, and they can put topic branches on their forks, and that's usually what's submitted in a pull request back against master. So we could create branches off of master where we know we want to evaluate a release. So mark it version 1 or something, and then on that branch we'll address. Well, we really currently don't have any regression tests or any additional things we're going to run on that branch, but eventually we probably will. But at this point, it would just be a branch marked on that version.
I mean, we do within Grok. We run, additional Grok specific
that's
integration
true.
tests and stuff.
So at least we could do that. But at some point, there may or may not be bug fixes specifically on that branch. And then at some point, we should merge that branch and tag it back. So merge it back to master and tag it as release v1. So initially, the branch would be like a release candidate. And when it's tagged and we're ready for that to be the official stable release, we tag it and merge it back to master. And at the same time, there may be bug fixes that occur on the branch that also need to apply to master, or vice versa. If somebody fixes a bug in master, we would probably want to try and apply it to the release branch. But the important thing is no new features go in the release branch. So continuing development happens on master. Nothing new gets into the release branch. So the forking idea is pretty much identical, except it's not a branch, it's a fork. So this idea came from the C4 process, which I've been investigating quite a bit. This is what 0MQ uses. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. So 0MQ, one of their biggest ideals is there is only one branch ever on the repository, and it is master, which is, we're currently doing that except for our website GH pages, which I'm not worried about that. But they'll even extend that to releases too. So they don't even want release branches on there. There is only ever one master.
Keeps it clean.
It does keep it clean. And some of the arguments for this, let's see, I think I have a slide on this. Some of the arguments for this. Sorry?
It keeps your repository clean.
Keeps the repository
Yeah.
clean. But you're going to have...
It's not truly clean, but yeah.
So these are some of the advantages. I've been talking to somebody on the mailing list about this who's a proponent of this approach. The version is obvious. So we would actually create a new repository under NuMINTA with the version tag. So in this case, NuPIC v123. And that would be, that the bug fixes would only go on in that repository. And eventually when we mark that as the release, and we could continue to fix bugs if people report bugs on that. So, but at some point it's got to be stable.
But if wouldn't that then bump up to 124? Let's say
Well, I guess the
minor bugs that are...
Yeah, that's we probably should. Once we mark it as stable, it should just be stable.
Wait, does that fork ever go back to the original one, or does this become the new one from
No.
which all the releases are made?
No, so master stays the development branch, or master of the repo, the main repo, NuPIC. So when we fork off of that, a fork is essentially a branch, and that it accepts only bug fixes. And when we decide we're done, we tag it and we merge it back into master, just like we would
And then
a
the fork
branch.
can go over.
Well,
The fork is-
No, this fork stays.
Oh, this
The
fork
fork will
becomes the
stay.
official.
This is the...
That becomes the release.
That is the...
And that's sort of one of the advantages. Okay, hold on.
On the 0MQ side, though, it looks like they're only doing it for the major releases.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you look at the list of projects under the, it's for 0MQ.
Oh.
It's only the major version as opposed to the minor.
I wonder why they're doing that. It's something.
You can have a lot of
Yeah.
repos, right?
Then
Yeah,
there are
you
tons
can
of
do a lot
repos.
of repos.
Yeah.
So I wonder if eventually they just remove those repos. At some point maybe they had them until the release was stable, and then once they bump to the next one, or I guess maybe just to keep the most recent minor version fork. I don't know. Good open questions. But so one of the advantages that have been proposed, and this is just me kind of recycling this from Stuart McKenzie, who's the guy I'm talking to. He's one of our earliest mailing list advocates, is that he's talking about an ecosystem. Like when a consumer is using, or a customer of NuPIC is using our project, they could have a very elaborate ecosystem in which NuPIC is installed and used, and having a URL that corresponds directly to Git repository that is that version and it's explicit within the URL was a big benefit in his opinion, because it's transparent and all of his user scripts, his CMake scripts that are building his product, can easily be updated to switch from one version to the next, and it's explicit in the code. It doesn't in that script, in the build scripts. So he advocates that this is better for larger ecosystems than the branch method, which is harder to do apparently in CMake. It's to check out something from Git and then switch to a branch.
But technically speaking, for any repository that you have access to, you can take you can check out any specific version at any point in time and push it to a fork.
Mhm.
And say, for the purposes of my application, my deployment purposes, I only ever want to clone from this repository because I have full control over the state of that repository.
Right.
And I've dictated that I'm only going to push to it at specific states.
Sure. So,
So
your build
NuPIC
scripts
might-
wouldn't change, right?
Yeah, so NuPIC might be Numenta/NuPIC.
Mhm.
But then I might have Austin/NuPIC version 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
And all of my build scripts and all of my deployment infrastructure revolves off of that.
Right.
So I don't think that you really need the host project to enforce that kind of methodology where they have multiple repositories,
Right.
if that's your concern. You still always have control over it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can see both of these scenarios working fine.
Well, it's much easier to put a checkout to a branch than a clone from a whip. That's
Yeah, that's true. You don't get all the history, right? So it should be faster.
You
You've already got a
master,
checkout.
just to check out the version.
If you already cloned that, then yeah, it's just a checkout. So I'm interested in seeing what other people have to think about this, because once we choose it, it's going to be hard to go backwards.
I like the idea of having everything in one place,
One repo.
one repo,
Yeah.
because I can carry that repo with me no matter what,
Yeah.
as opposed to having to consult some external resource to find out if there's a newer version. I can't get that from looking at master.
Well, there should be tags on master using this even. Every time a fork is marked as stable, it should be merged and tagged on master.
But the update's going to be the other project.
Yeah, all the incremental updates won't be there, but
Right. Right. But there will be a change log.
There'll be a change log.
With that merge comes a change log too. So this is still very open for debate, and I'm considering, asking mailing lists for opinions. Although I'm afraid I'm going to get a lot of opinions. So we'll see. So think about that for a while, and let me know what you guys think.
I think the place where it could get tricky is if really every minor version is its own fork. I could see we can get into fork nightmare.
Yeah.
And just managing all that stuff could be really tricky. But if we have a new kind of new fork every few months or something, every couple of months,
Mm-hmm.
every minor version change, the second number, that might not be so bad.
Right.
But if every week there's a new fork.
Well, a lot of projects will
to
do.
utensil nightmare.
Most of the projects I've looked at, they've got releases that are, monthly, bi-weekly sometimes, and it's not usually automated or standardized. It's just, they once they get a significant chunk, they'll do a release in a manual fashion, which is probably the right way to do it. And I'm not really sure how we're going to, because right now, if you look at the commit history in NuPIC, there's new features and there's bugs kind of mingled together. And so if we allow development to continue on master, people are going to be fixing bugs and adding new features.
Right.
So what point, how do we decide when we're going to do a minor release versus a patch release? And how do we try and collect the bugs together and put them into a patch release? I'm not really sure.
If you have a single repository with just stable master, with only master in it, and you tag all the versions, when you merge in a new version, wouldn't you get all those individual commits also in there? Can't you do it? So you still have the full commit log.
Yeah.
You can still go back to any in between versions, so you don't lose anything, right?
You shouldn't lose anything.
But if you want to work on the version, you have to check out their repository.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Or the tag.
Or the
or
tag.
the tag.
And
But
once
if you're a
it's
developer,
No,
most
no,
of the
no,
time
but
you're
there
not
are
going to
already
be on.
commits. There are other people already committing to that repository.
But that version fork, that other repository, is not necessarily for developers, except the ones working on bug fixes for that version.
We have two people working on bug fixes, one commit. The other one has to sync all the time with the actual repositories. Two repositories or one repository.
Yeah. So if a bug fix goes in on one, they'll have to push it to both.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's the same
That's the
for a
same today
branch.
with the pull
I mean, the
request.
only additional overhead is having to clone another repository.
Do you
But
need to clone it, or can you just have those be different origins?
You don't, yeah, so that's the thing. You just add it as a remote.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Oh,
multiple
right.
clones.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, you don't actually need separate clones.
Yeah, exactly.
You
So
have origin or upstream. You have
you
whatever
have
your own fork
1.2.3, you could have
and you
everything.
have multiple remotes that refer to each.
Yeah.
You essentially just treat it like a branch.
Yeah.
Well, we are all working with 2 forks now anyway.
Exactly.
We have the NuMenta and we have our own personal fork that we do
I'm working
first
with
pull
like 8.
requests. Huh?
I have like 8.
8, yes. But you don't have to clone it all. You just have
Right,
them as
yeah.
different URLs. So.
I've got remotes for all the different contributors
Yeah.
so that I can pull their changes and run them.
Right. And you
Oh,
have
so
at
you
least
don't
3 or
do
4.
clone your own, then, do you? You don't have to. I guess, right?
I think
Well,
the
you
proper
do-
way is
you
you
have your
clone,
remote?
You
you
do
clone
have to
your
clone
own
your own.
and then you add everything else
Yeah.
as different remotes.
Oh,
That's
of the
that's
clone.
yeah.
Right.
So origin is still your
Oh, I
your
see, I
fork.
It's just to be safe.
Yeah. I think I have at least 3 or 4 remotes on my.
And my remote origin master is usually way out of date because I've never pushed an origin master.
It always complains.
Yeah.
But it doesn't now.
That's a disappointment.
Okay. All right, so we've kind of touched the surface of the release debate. So I want to just let that settle for a while, and maybe come back and address it later, because it's not something we have to decide right away, but it's something that we need to start thinking about.
Are we going to go to Python packaging expressions? Pipeline?
That's
I'm
part
sorry,
of
did I
the
miss that?
Yeah, that's,
No, that's
part of the.
part of the pip installable.
We want to make it pip installable.
Oh, okay, and so then we'll do.
That's a separate. That's like another
Yeah.
feature.
That's another
And
feature.
this the reason we need a process like this to be able to handle very.
Gotcha. So that's an
Yeah.
incremental stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk quickly about a release manager. So we're going to need someone to play the release manager role once we establish exactly what the process is. So I anticipate that I will initially do it in order for me to properly document the process and let the process settle into an established process, and then look for someone in the community to take over as release manager. So the release manager does not have to be a committer. They just have to submit a pull request with the proper release stuff.
Can you put tags?
Yes.
Push the tags.
Yeah, they'll have to push the tags, but they can push the tags to their origin pull request, right? Which will get merged in when we merge the pull request. Isn't that right?
Well, but we would want to tag the merge.
Right.
Oh,
wouldn't
tag
be
the
able-
merge.
you
Okay,
wouldn't
so
be
the
able to present-
reviewer would have to tag it when
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
merge it.
And so you need to push the tags to master.
Right. But that's still a little bit of work. But the main work is maintain, branching or forking, whichever one, which either can be done by a contributor, not a committer, and then kind of maintaining that branch, making sure that only bug fixes get into that release branch, wait for stability, and then update the change log, which is maybe the most significant amount of work, just because you have to go through all those commits and look at from since the last release and create a change log. That's most of it.
I imagine it'd be a lot easier if the release manager was a committer.
I don't know. I don't see that it would be that much easier. I mean, because they're going to have to create a pull request anyway, and someone else is going to have to
It's
approve
just the
it.
last merge. That's the.
Yeah. So I will initially start this off once we do it, and look for somebody else to take over. And this is a good role for a community member because they don't have to be a committer, and they get oversight from us before something is merged as well. Okay, so the last topic here is some stricter contribution standards, which I've been documenting. So as a part of the whole C4, like I'm talking about here, C4 is, what does it stand for? Code. There's code and contract in there. Conduct.
Oh, explosive.
No, it's not. It isn't explosive. My browser's being extremely unresponsive right now. Collective code construction contract.
C4 is better.
C4 is better, yeah. Okay, so using some of the guidelines set up in that spec, which I thought were relevant and applicable to our process, I'm creating this working draft, a kind of addendum to our development process that defines a few things. So the main points are on this slide. So for feature requests especially, I think we're in a situation where feature requests just pop up in a PR. Right? There's no discussion about them. There's no issue created in the issue tracker. They're just the first time we see them as a PR. And someone's done a significant amount of work and put their time towards improving NuPIC, but we don't see it until we see code changes. So I want to try and mitigate that because I want to have discussions about feature requests and code changes that are coming before someone just starts working on them. So I'm going to try and encourage this a bit of a stricter contribution standard to first try and seek consensus on the mailing list of what the new feature is, because you're going to get feedback. If someone else is going to use that new feature, they might have very valuable input on how you should be doing it, what the API of the new feature is going to be. So you're just going to get valuable information there. And then before you start working on it, log an issue. And this is just really for tracking purposes. And that the issue should define the problem, define the feature, and what it's accomplishing. And all of this is also because when you do this sort of thing, you better define what it is you're trying to create. So you're probably going to write a better feature when you're explicitly defining what you're doing up front.
You shouldn't work at anything unless you have a permission for it.
Yes.
And that's probably a good thing for internal as well.
Yeah, for sure. So once you have discussed it if necessary, you don't necessarily, I think, have to discuss every bug fix. If you find a bug, file an issue, that could be just the initial discussion about it. I find that this doesn't work the way I expected it to. And then submit a PR. When you submit that PR, we already have this ability to use Git features already in GitHub to link a PR to an issue. So
it is.
PR is an issue.
Oh.
PR is an issue, right?
PR is an issue, but in this model, there's going to be a PR and an issue.
So first
So
the
an
issue.
issue-
That's an issue.
So it's kind of has some.
First you create an issue, right? And then potentially create a PR.
Yeah, so we asked that. Okay, so there is a way to do it because we asked that before.
There's no way to
Gosh.
merge an issue and a PR.
So it's going to show two issues.
There are ways to link them.
So there's going to be two issues, one PR and one initial.
But they have different icons, so you
Yeah.
can filter it.
Yeah, you can filter and so in your commit message, in any commit within the PR, you can put like closes, fixes, resolves. That will link back to the issue. So you can put resolves, whatever.
Well, here's the thought. So you create an empty PR, it's just a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And then if that gets approved, then that becomes you kind of keep doing
So-
that. Then it's a single, I don't know if that works nicely, but
It could
that's
work.
the way to do it.
It could work. So
So you're saying there's no issues, only PRs.
Well, I'm just
I've seen a
saying
discussion
that's
about
that's
that.
a
Yeah.
possibility.
That's one way to do it. So I researched this and found some different tactics to essentially merge issues and PRs, and that's one of them. To create an empty PR with a description that defines the issue. But I don't trust anyone who's really going to do that in real life.
So it's khaki, right?
Yeah. So I think since we're using GitHub's issue tracker, we're just going to have to put up with the fact that there are issues in PRs and take advantage of the tooling that they provide to link them together. So you're going to end up with an issue. You're going to end up with an issue that's assigned to a person, a PR that's also assigned to the same person that resolves that issue. You can resolve the issue either in a commit message or in the text of the PR. So you can go and edit the PR and say closes number 1, and it will effectively close that issue once it's merged to master. So it's something that GitHub just does. So if it sees a PR merged to master and it sees that indicator, it will close the issue. So we have tooling in place.
Are there
that will
other
help with
messages you
this.
can put in other than closing?
Uh,
Like, you say like it's related to, or this is about.
I'm not sure.
If you just put the
If you just put
the
this,
number in it, it'll get linked to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you're browsing the GitHub interface.
right? You can just put $42, or I mean number 42, and number 42 will now be linked to that issue. So it's just basically like a relates to.
Okay.
So it's something. We all knew GitHub issues was not as feature rich as Jira. So we're gonna make do with what we have.
That's
Another
both a good and a bad thing.
exactly. We take the good with the bad. Okay, so we can submit a PR that links to the issue. And another neat thing, I think, that we can take advantage of these tags on PRs, and we can mark that PR as ready. So that means, I'm gonna start encouraging this immediately because we can do it right now.
Are you sure? I remember seeing that.
Here it is. So
No, I mean in the PR. How do you mark it as ready? Is there just a checkbox?
it's tricky. It's tricky. Okay, so if you go to so these two PRs are ready, ones that Mark created, and he says verbally in the commit message, this is ready for review. And so I'm submitting that we should explicitly do it by putting a tag called ready. That way we can filter, we can look at any point on PRs that are waiting for our
So
review.
this is not a GitHub features tag. It's a
This
list.
is just a tag, and you can filter by tag. So,
Oh,
but so if you go into this PR,
Not a Git tag, it's a GitHub.
it's a GitHub label.
It's a label.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should.
Where do you do
Let me show you. You cannot do it from the PR.
that? Oh, that's not good.
I know. I don't really understand why. You can change the milestone. You can change the assignee, but you can't do it from the PR.
A milestone could do it.
No. Milestones are sprints. Okay, so let me go back and I'll show you how. You have to go back to the issues page, which is this little thing right here, and find your issue. And in this case,
It's the label button.
yeah, you have to select it.
Those are pull requests.
These are pull requests. Yeah, but the issues page will show you pull requests and labels. What is going on?
But you're doing two different encodes. You're encoding two videos.
One of them's one's not recording. But it's still.
One's a screen
Yeah,
recording,
one-
and they're both video
That's-
recordings.
that's
So
why
you're
it's
doing
there.
two live recordings.
Anyway, this is where you apply the label. You have to check it and apply the label here. So it's a little nasty bit of overhead,
I
but
see. Okay.
I would say it's worth it. If you want your ticket to be reviewed, it'll be more likely to be reviewed if you have
That's
this
right.
ready. Yeah. So I'm going to try and encourage people to do that. But the contribution standards are a little bit richer than that.
Now, a person can also choose to hold off on making the PR until it's ready. Right? And so once it becomes
Yeah,
a PR, by
sure.
definition, it's ready.
But it's more valuable, I would say, to just create the PR and work on it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've got something you want to show.
Oh, so if
then-
somebody wants to just kind of give unsolicited reviews, feedback.
If they want
So,
to.
I mean,
Yeah.
Mark's done that
Okay,
a
so
few
you can kind of
times.
see what
You've
you're
done
working
that. So this
Yeah.
isn't ready, but here's the PR.
Right. Oh, okay.
And I think we should establish a policy of not merging until we see that it's labeled as ready.
We can put that in the script.
We could. the validator could
Yeah.
do that.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that whenever I'm ready to solicit feedback from others. It's like not
Just
really
throw it-
merged,
throw it
but
over the fence.
I need to bring other people in the room. So
Yeah.
create a pull request, and that's
Just say, hey,
take
check it
a
out.
Yeah,
take
it's
advantage
totally
of
locked up.
getting
Someone
those like
will
those
close
notifications to notify certain people that it's
Yeah.
Oh, it's suddenly responsive.
So the requirement that a feature be vetted before really moving forward with it, what about us? If we need for our product to implement a certain feature, does it mean that we have to play by the same rules?
Yeah.
But what if they don't want it, but we really need it? What do we do?
Fork it.
Well, we don't fork it.
No,
I mean,
but
in-
what if we need a feature, but
uh,
the community says, oh no, that sucks. We don't want it.
well, since NuMIC is the maintainer of this product, and I don't anticipate this coming up. But if it does, and we decide we're going to take this, we need to take this in a direction that actually breaks. This would be like a major revision, right? If we're breaking something, or we're introducing something that nobody wants.
Right.
That would be like a major revision. In that case, it's really up to the community to provide their own fork and continue in the direction that they want to go.
Oh, so then that splits us from the community.
That splits us from the community. I doubt that's going to happen. I mean, NuPIC is intentionally extremely general, and we have a vision for it. I think that is not going to make it specific in any way that's going to prohibit others from trying.
Is
to
it
use
commonly expected that the owner of a project like this, like we are the owner of it, plays by the same rules as everybody else? Is that common practice?
Yeah, in open source projects, it's the rule.
So we're not God
No.
anymore?
No, not anymore. Okay. So that's all that I had for this meeting. It was a nice chance for me to brainstorm about what I've been thinking about the past few days, so it's nice.
So sounds good. The main issue is this forks versus branches.
That's the main unresolved issue, and the ball hasn't dropped on either side of the fence in my head yet.
It does, for the stuff I was talking about, right? I mean, sometimes we need to make something quickly, and it introduces friction, right? Because now it has to get vetted. Maybe we need to do it today so that we can do it anyway tomorrow, right?
Well, we
Yet
could
now
always-
we have to start a discussion. We probably have to wait for some time.
You're talking about
To get some
Grok as a
consensus?
user of NuPIC.
Yeah,
So we, as a user of NuPIC, could always go back to what we're doing today, which is take tip of master. I mean, if we don't want to deal with whatever release issues are going on within NuPIC, I mean, right now we're bleeding edge. We're always.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
I think you're saying we can anybody can put stuff into master. It's really, does it belong in the release?
Master is the development branch, and so we are always taking the very tip of the development branch, which is dangerous, really.
Yeah.
So once we get a release process in place, Grok is going to be safer. Any other users of NuPIC are going to be
So
safer,
the vetting,
and they'll have more choices.
so the vetting applies to a specific release, but people can still throw anything into master, like even if the community doesn't want it.
Well,
So
we're going to,
if one of the reviewers approves it,
yeah, if a reviewer
they can
approves it.
always just merge it and
But as a part of this, the things I was proposing here, if we encourage people not just to create a PR or dump it in for review, to start a conversation about whatever feature they're trying to do, the community is going to squelch it if they don't think it's a good idea. And if a PR shows up and we approve it, they're going to complain about it and say, hey, we had a discussion about this, nobody thought it was a good idea, what are you doing? So it should be fairly evident.
So we don't always have to be the bad guy.
Right. Well, we're not.
Or sometimes if they really like it, but we think it's really stupid, then we'll be a really bad guy.
No, I guess, but to kind of echo that, there might be a bug fix that we need made right now because, they're demoing at AWS Invent today, and we need made right now. We don't have the time to have a discussion about it or anything.
Well,
We just need to
then
do it.
it's our responsibility to have a process that we build on top of NuPIC where we can switch from whatever SHA we're using to build to another SHA, which is really what we have in place today. So all we need to do is switch that SHA to master, and we'll have that ability. Of course,
That would have to be in a different fork.
Or branch.
Yeah,
It
because
wouldn't
we
be,
might
it
not
wouldn't
want,
be in the main line.
because you might
development.
not want everything
if
from
we
the master.
choose the
up
forking
to that point.
strategy,
Yeah. I guess I guess that's one advantage of the forking strategy. Is that right? It couldn't be in the mainline master because we haven't talked about it.
Now, if
Because there could be a bunch of other things up to that point, right? A master that we really don't want to put in that, right?
yeah, if that's
We
the
just want
case,
to take
then-
something that was stable
Mhm.
and just add this one change to it. But master
Well,
might have lots of changes
I
better.
think it would probably be our responsibility then to go back in history and figure out where we want to stop and then branch and add a feature.
So we just need to kind of have a formal, documented process here for it, right?
But it would be a
Just-
Grok
just-
process, not a
Yeah,
Grok
growth process, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
we would need one just so that anybody can just follow that. And
We actually
know
do
what
have
to do.
that documented. I think I thought about this a lot before we even open source the code.
Yeah, but But as soon as you do that, we're now no longer in the mainline
Yes.
thing, and right now it's really nice. Every commit, goes through our whole process.
Well, it
if we
could be
divert,
our.
then
This could be
it
Grok
gets harder
strategy.
and harder.
I mean, what if we were always bleeding edge at a master?
But then we need to be able to make the changes immediately if we need to, like a bug fix, without a discussion.
Without picking up stuff that eventually.
No, but we have a
But if
separate
we're-
fork. We have a separate fork that we merge back to the master once in a while after the discussion.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
With the separate fork.
But we'd be in the same boat as any other user of the system. And if we needed to make an ad hoc bug fix without going through a strict development process like I'm defining here, we're gonna have to do it on our own, and on our own fork.
Yeah, and we have to have the discipline to then make sure it gets merged in with do a discussion or whatever.
And then try and figure out how not to make that happen again, because it's definitely the exception.
It's definitely the exception, yeah. And this is something any other user that's critically depending on NuPIC would want to have that ability. Which,
I mean, whether we choose branch or fork for release strategy, it doesn't matter. It's. I mean, there's pros and cons in both sides, and neither of them are game changers or game stoppers.
Right.
Okay, thanks. Good discussion.
Welcome.
There's another kind of release process thing. I don't know if it's not exactly in here, but it's come up a couple of times in the past where we want to make significant changes to the core algorithm code, and a PR or a forking strategy is not. I think doesn't really work well for some core. I mean, a feature flag approach seems to work better for that. Because you can have both versions. What you want is to have both versions there in parallel for quite a while, maybe even through releases, and then at some point deprecate it. So it's almost like a new feature. So Gil's spatial pooler implementation, for example, is a good example of that.
Right.
We have that there. He's done 2 different implementations, and they're all 3 are there. We can test them, and it's at some point we can deprecate the old one and get rid of it.
But the point of potential change is at the point of deprecation, right? So the features live alongside each other, and it doesn't affect anybody,
Right.
Until we decide, okay, this is good enough. We're going to switch.
So I think that's a good process for core algorithm stuff.
Yeah.
But I should talk to Mark about that because he's been making a lot of really cool changes to it. But any big changes makes me really nervous. So I would like him and anyone else that making core changes, I would encourage those changes, but it'd be great if it was under a feature flag or under a switch so that they're both resident for a while.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and it's something that we could document as well.
Yeah,
especially on the algorithm side.
Yeah, just a few core pieces that
Right.
spatial pool or temporal pool or altogether.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and also, but I mean, we want to make sure that when we do the cleaning, like for example, sometimes people start saying, well, we're going to have one file, but we're going to have all these ifs everywhere all over the place. And
Yeah.
I mean, I had to deal with this with one code review, like in the stream stuff here, and just couldn't follow the logic because it was like trying to use similar functions.
Yeah.
With like bunch of ifs, and it's like, you just at some point you just lose it. I mean, you just can't follow what's going on. It's just too complex.
And a PR is often not the best place to. I mean, for this, what you just said, you could do in a PR, code review, but things like performance impact, you can't really do that in a PR, and it's really hard to test unless you have all 3, both of them at the same time, and all you do is flip a switch.
Yeah.
You go back and forth between them, and then you can really do good studies. But in a PR, you have no idea what it's going to run faster or not.
Right. Yeah, that's something we should document.
Yeah.
At least, provide guidelines for major algorithmic changes to
Right.
include parallel paths with feature flags.
Yeah, because if Mark had done that, I would be okay approving it right now.
We should tell him that.
I'd be
I
happy
thought
with
you'd
it.
go in there
The
and
only
do it.
reason we're hesitating is because it's touching that same code base, and it's
Right. And if we had, what we really need then, especially to facilitate that idea, is a decent regression test suite so that we can run these things continuously for a minute and see what the real impact is over time.
Yeah.
But by the way, you can, maybe that wasn't completely addressed, but you can actually try out a PR without it being merged into master. And they give you directions on how to do that on
Yeah,
their
that's-
website.
No, you can, but it's a cumbersome. You can't do
Yeah,
side by
if
side
you wanted to
comparison
have
easily.
tests running side by side, yeah, it's a pain.
Because we have these compatibility tests that run one, convert it to the other, run it for a little
Right.
while, and those are, and the instant it diverges, it fails. But you can't do that with a PR. And those are very helpful.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The other related thing is, we have the Travis build system, which runs a set of fast tests. It'd be nice at some point, maybe as a roadmap item, to build up something like proper integration tests and
Yeah.
that are longer running that everyone can have access visibility into.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
We could do
That's a
Travis,
separate
though, right?
topic altogether.
That would
Yeah,
not
it
be
is.
Travis, it would be something else probably, right?
I don't know.
We could do it in Travis. We just have to
Travis
put
lets you have
regression
for a
tests
long
in.
time?
Yeah, it can run for a long time. It just can't produce over a certain amount of output.
But we could upload output S3 or something like that, or some other
I think it's actually 50 minutes. 50 minutes is the limit.
Okay, so there's a limit. So if we wanted to have a long running test over 50 minutes, we couldn't.
Yeah,
Like something that runs for days.
yeah. We'd probably have to set something up ourselves.
Okay.
Okay, thanks guys.